So I don't know if it makes sense. We thought everybody needed a stretch break before we get into the final half an hour of wrap up. And then we said, well, why not make it a dance break? Do you guys want to just stand up and dance? They're about to put some music we all know and love. Are you ready? All right. All right. All right, before you get too wild, let's sit down again. Good. All right, all you wonderful people.
So do you want 5 minutes before the end now, and that's it?
Yeah, for sure. So, thank you to all of you who submitted your little orange sheets. Three people worked very diligently going through all of those and trying to consolidate ideas. So let me tell you what I heard from them and what they heard from you. One, in question one, what are you going to do when you go home? And I think we all feel energized, despite the fact that we're exhausted, by this day. And what we heard was people want to go home. They want to take information back to their boards. They want to run for their town boards and figure out how to change the town boards if they need to. They talked about how to and wanting to maintain the connections that they made today. And many of you put, and you'll see on the attendance list, put your emails down. And also kudos to Sandy Padulka, who wrote down sort of particular topics that each person had identified an interest in. So that's a way for you to connect with each other. I think we also put those Post-it notes out there, which only a few people have signed up, and that's fine. But if you want to connect with other people, two things. One is, if you put your names on that, we will do a follow-up to put that group together so they can communicate with each other. We'll be sure you get each other's information if you signed up to allow us to share your information. The other thing is, if people have it in them on your way out of here, then go stand by one of those posters and at least lay eyes on the other people who signed up, so that when and if you have a conference call or an email, you actually have a face, and that I know always helps me. We also, in terms of what we would hope for from after this conference, one of the things people talked about is how do we create the collaborations and the sharing, and various methods, were mentioned. I think prime among them was how and whether we can use the website, our long-winded website, to help put things together. And again, some ideas that came up were a searchable library and a database. And one of the things I think I heard a number of times today was, call it a toolkit, call it whatever you want to, but the idea that if suddenly you see a compressor being proposed or a pipeline being proposed or your landfill is expanding, you would like to have a go-to place where you can see background information that somebody else has vetted, so you don't go to all the websites to find the health information. Some place where probably it'll be links to some of the studies that Nadia mentioned or others mentioned, and where there will be a draft of a resolution if you want your town board to pass a resolution, or potentially a model ordinance, but with the background information so that if you want to get your county, and I'm very excited, Tompkins County is now looking seriously at a comprehensive waste ban. Whereas before they'd only done a kind of, we won't do things on our county property, but they're looking at now one of these comprehensive bans. So the information's there, ready to go. They don't have to go back and search through everything. If we're gonna do that, there need to be, among you, people who are willing to share what you know, help populate that toolkit. So we will be reaching out to you. Think really hard about whether that's something you're willing to contribute to. Because we'll need, 4 people who've worked on compressor stuff to help work on what they can put together in that area. So we will reach out to you. I am hoping that there will be volunteers here. And in fact, if you know that you're somebody who would be willing and interested in working with some others to do something like that, let us know. We will put you together. There also was the discussion of a question and answer board. So there's two-way stuff. And again, I think we can probably figure out a way to do that on our website. I'm not very knowledgeable about it, and there's always a question of monitoring it in some way, and if some of the bad guys become a part of the conversation, which probably they could, I don't know enough, how to monitor that. But I think it's not a bad idea to have a way to ask each other a question. Whether people really monitor it is another issue. And actually, I would ask you guys out there, what do you think of the idea of a question and answer forum? Joe? Oh, that was a sparkle. That's a good idea. Okay, let's have a sparkle for a good idea and a not so much. We're sparkling, okay. They don't call me Sparkle Plenty for nothing. Okay. And the suggestion was that the question and answer board be specific. So it's not everything you always might think about and worry about. It would be about compressors or about pipelines or about landfills or about wastewater, so that those of us interested in a particular issue aren't monitoring something with a lot of stuff we aren't following. Not because we don't care, but just because one of the things I think we all have to realize is we have to focus, because you can't do everything. And I feel sometimes really guilty. I delete a hell of a lot from my emails, things that I know are important. But I also know I'm going to lose if I don't focus. So I recommend to all of you, don't burn out. Decide some things that are particularly useful for you, that mesh with what you want to see happen and what some of your talents are, and concentrate on that. And actually, can I see a show of hands? Are there people who might be willing to work on that first bit of sort of a toolkit specific to a particular topic? Forget which topic, just are you willing to work on such a thing? Great. What I'm talking about is we would have to put people together who have a common interest and some knowledge, and let's say we were trying to put something together on compressors. It would be a few people who have some experience and knowledge, and maybe some others who don't and are very concerned. Let's assume maybe the Horseheads people aren't on top of it, but there are people there who are worried about it. Put those people together, and then they would help figure out, okay, what are some of the avenues? Here's the health study that was done in Madison County. Here's some of the monitoring that's been done around the country that we can use as data for these things. Here's an approach to a strategy that we found successful. So something like that. And then we would put it on the web so that people can access it. That's what I'm thinking about. And I would say each group can define it as they see fit. But it sounds like there are enough people, and probably what we're going to have to do after this conference, I'm impressed by the number of you who have stayed and are still with it. That's great. But some people have left, and there were, of course, people who couldn't come here. So we will reach out to a broader group, perhaps making such an invitation. A few people said more conferences, and I say, great, organize them. Sounds terrific. Because there's certainly a lot more we'd like to know. I think one of the things I am very keen on learning more about is the air issue. I think that's potentially a significant entree point, and I don't know how we're going to do that, but I imagine we will. And so that one we'll be figuring it out. Another thing that I think is we should draft a press release after this conference, and I think somehow our group will probably end up having that happen. Maybe we will rely on some of the journalists who are here. And then what I'd like to do is post that on our website and get each of you to get that into your local paper so that it comes locally. We heard from Otsego County, blah, 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 whatever the papers are there, and get it out that way, because they'll be more interested in local. So you'll put a little local twist on it. And or letters to the editor, which are easier to get in. They're less lengthy, less in depth. But after this conference, if each of us can go back to our communities and get something in the newspaper, because I think, as we've said, most people don't know yet, which is scary. Let's see. I think a couple of other things we heard were become an intervener, become a party, because then you get information that others won't get. So think about it when there's something going on, how to do that. It's not hard usually. You can just go on the website and do it. It does bring with it responsibilities, but I think it's important. I know I was interested in how do we stay abreast of all this, and the You Are Here map, our opportunities to have input there is great and important, and be sure you pass that along. And the other thing is, while the notice is too little too late, at least things are noticed in the environmental notice bulletin. That's the state projects are noticed there. They have to be posted. And as Bill said, they're usually not posted until it's gone a long way between negotiating between the company and DEC, and there may be, at least in the air unit, they tell me, oh, it's not till we have a draft permit. So it's fairly far along, but it's still important. And Liz Moran is monitoring the ENB, and I think we will talk about a way for her to be sure that everything new that comes up that's relevant to the kinds of things we're talking about gets blasted out to all of us. Usually only a 30-day comment period, but maybe you can argue for more. Liz told me that sometimes you have to foil to get the application. Oh my God. So you have 30 days in the midst of which you have to foil this thing. But at least that's something we all ought to be on top of. And we've talked about, and Sarah Kelson from NIAF said, maybe we should actually do once a month what's in the news about infrastructure. And we can put that in an email to those who are interested. I believe Sane Energy has a newsletter that comes out, I think it's weekly, I'm not sure. And it has a lot of what's going on. So I would urge you to subscribe to that. All of you know Sane Energy Project? If you go online, you'll find it. And their newsletter is great. It's they do nice things on the web. They must have some good volunteer who knows how to do that stuff. Looks really good. I think, Adam Flint had the idea of trying to figure out a way to support candidates and guidance to support candidates, and I think that's a good idea. There certainly have been some workshops. I believe Jan Quarles and Michael Deneen did some work in the Finger Lakes area, et cetera. So I don't know how that would move forward and whether Adam is volunteering to do something of that. I don't know.
I'm not, and I don't disagree with Bill, but the core of the proposal is if you're going to win in this territory on these issues, you need to have really well-run, preferably professionally run campaigns in order to win. Not necessarily one party or another, but it's going to take, and the money is not all going to come from within those counties.
Okay. Going to come from within the counties all the way, sadly. Okay. Yeah, call the Koch brothers. Coke Light. Sandy, did you have something? Do we need a mic, guys? Yes. Apparently for the AV you need a mic. Here he comes. Here comes Mike.
I wasn't planning to speak on this, but I'm going to say something anyway. I think it was last March, maybe it was 2 years ago, we ran a conference on helping people get bands in their town, and part of that was getting elected. And did that here in Ithaca, and I think we had a pretty good response. And I feel sort of crazy to think about this, but we were thinking of maybe doing it again, maybe in February or something, and maybe we wanted to go somewhere else and do it. I was wondering about maybe if Broome County wanted to, and I was hoping to talk to some people today, but I haven't had time yet to see if they want to do something like that. But if anybody likes this idea, we sort of have something of a program already. Come talk to me afterwards, and you know, would need to put a venue together, but I think we already kind of, it wouldn't be reinventing the wheel because we've done it once before. It just seems like a good time again because it's the right election season, and we should probably do it January, February, and I'm game.
Yay!
So come talk to me.
Yay!
Over a beer at the Ithaca Beer Company.
Ellen, 30
Hell.
seconds. 30 seconds right here. 30
Yes.
second follow-up.
Sure.
Okay, so let me just do this really quick. You know, I just wanted to say this, that... there we go.
I love it. I love it.
I know there's a lot of complex reasons for this, but the silence was deafening from the anti-fracking leadership in New York on Howie Hawkins. And I think that is a big problem. Okay, so 501c3s, I sort of get that. I still think there was things you could have done, like a voter's guide that's neutral. There's lots of 501c3s like Peace Action that have been doing voter's guides for a long time. There was a few 501c4s that were silent, and no names. I'm looking around the room here, but I'm not going to mention any names here. No excuse for 501c4s, in my opinion. The next thing was, I mean, there's a lot of other reasons, but I'm just saying this, that we need to have a discussion about how to get a strong, progressive candidate for a major, executive position of a major state in the world affairs elected that's not necessarily a Democrat. We need to have a conversation about how to do that. Thank
All
you.
right. Let me see. Have I missed something that you feel is key? Come to the mic.
Renee, Frack Action, New Yorkers Against Fracking. So Julia, I know, mentioned, I think, a good point, Walsh, who I work with, that we really need to be educating our state legislature on all of these infrastructure projects. So just looking at ways that we can either lobby our state representatives locally in district or in Albany. We may have even more support from the state legislature than we think we have, just based on pure ignorance on behalf of many state representatives not knowing what's going on. So just wanted to bring up that we should, reach out to our elected officials at the state level.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think that would be another good follow-up, is for each of us to go to our home district, make an appointment with your assembly person, with your state senator. You may or may not. Usually they're more likely to meet with you back home in your district rather than in Albany. Bring a couple of people and go tell them what you've learned and show them a few maps. Are there any other burning ideas that people need to share? And if not, yep.
just want to reiterate to people that across the country, divestment is, we have to connect public pension fund divestment across the United States. Divestment is often separate from fracking and LNG. People say, well, they're not related. They are related. In New York State, we have number 2 and number 3 public pension funds funding this destruction. Please call Comptroller DiNapoli and Comptroller Stringer and say, I don't want LNG in my town, I don't want fracking, I don't want waste, get our public money out. We have to defund. These corporations are not gonna stop, so take our money out. You can push for divestment in New York State. We've made a lot of progress. Please push. December 10th is a national state day of action on that. Contact me if you want to do something in your community. We have to divest these corporations.
Thank you.
Identify yourself.
That was. Is it up here? It should be. Come put it. Okay.
And right, following right along with that, I'm Alicia Alexander from Go Green, New York. You know, we all have bank accounts, and this money that's funding this humongous corporation is coming not just from funds. It's coming from banks, from Bank of America, from some sort of. Check out your bank and see who they're, you know, where they're putting their funds, and maybe you want to take a look at maybe alternatives
Thank
or
you.
one
That's
of those
great.
things. Yeah.
I think at this point, we're all exhausted. I'm exhausted. And I think what I'd like to do is ask you to take the last 5 minutes. We're going to end a few minutes early. And go out to those yellow Post-it notes. Put your name on the yellow Post-it note if you want to follow on in some of this. If you already did, terrific. But there are a lot of people who didn't. Stand by it. Meet each other. And then, for those who are interested, some of us are going to move on to the Ithaca Beer Company, and their directions out on the registration table for eating and drinking and relaxing and enjoying each other's company. So thank you all for coming.
Excuse me, Ellen, can
Yeah.
I just ask a process question now at this point? Will there be a follow-up of like an email list, or are people okay with sharing their stuff, and how are you going to keep us in contact with one another?
Well, we asked in the registration whether you were willing to have your contact information shared amongst the people here. The agreement is it's not going out to general lists. And so we will be following up. If people did not agree to share their information, they better contact us and say, whoops, I changed my mind. And what we'll do then is, based on everyone who was here today, we will send out a follow-up about the video, about some ideas that we've posted the press release, those kinds of things. Thanks, Maura. I'm sorry.
Well, that's I assume that what they're establishing, the fact that they're establishing minimal acceptable level at all is to make room for something nefarious that is coming down in terms of exposing the public. It could have to do with the radioactivity arriving from Fukushima off the west coast. It might have something to do with that. The other thing was, going back to the Tennessee River thing, you're still looking for river monitors downstream? Are you doing any of that?
Upstream from